Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the Kanban board. So this is a live session for beginners. So we are going to go from scratch to a full Kanban tour. So we're going to show the features, how can you use it, how should you set up your Kanban if you want to add, for example, stage conditionals, if you want to add automations, if you want to add a certain field that you want to see, if you want to change the way that you're going to also access this Kanban. So basically, Gesture Kanban can do a lot. Kanban actually has lots of different names across different products. So when we are talking about Kanbans, you can also say boards, pipes. Some people call it CRM. It's not really a CRM, but the thing is, it's basically a way to manage processes, and sometimes not necessarily a column is a stage. So using Jestor, you can use the Canva view as a board, as a stage, as a way to just display data. So we are going to show you these differences and how to build like a really basic Canva of stages, which is what most people are looking for, just having stages or a to-do or something like this, a status. But we're going to also show how can you use the same data, the same record, and see it in classify it in different ways. Because the difference here is that Jasper uses the single selection field to transform it into a Kanban. So you always have a relational database on the back end of your process. So the Kanban is just a way for you to just manage your process or have a better UI for your process, a better experience for your employees, and so on. So I'm going to show you how can you build this and all the features that you have there. So you have stage conditionals, you have color conditioning, you have styles that you can customize inside Gesture. You can have multiple combos for the same data. You could add other blocks from our app, and we are going to also talk about why we have the combo inside the app instead of just having the combo, and why this is way more powerful than only having a combo. And that's a basic overview of everything that we can do here. But we are going to show today just the basics, how to create it. We are going to explain each settings, how does it work, and also give you a few examples of possibilities that you can build with using the Kanban block, as we say. So, Cruz, I think we should start showing them how to create a Kanban, right?
Cool. Like Bruno said, the idea here is that to first create a Kanban board, we have to first create a database, and that's because in Jestor, what you are creating is databases, it's tables, and then afterwards, what you do is that you create views for those tables, and this is very powerful because it means that a process is not just the Kanban board, and that's what differentiates us from some dedicated Kanban tools in which a process is just a Kanban board and it cannot have more than one view. It cannot be seen in a different way. In Jestor, you create a database and then you can have as many different kinds of views as you want. And you can, in fact, have more than one Kanban board view to a specific process, right? So the idea here is that to create a Kanban board, the first thing we have to do is create a table which is going to be the database that holds all of the data from the Kanban board, right? So the idea here is that I've just created this. I'm going to name this Kanban example table. Oh, sorry. And basically, the idea here, if I wanted to create a Kanban board, all I would have to do is create a stage field. But I'm going to create some other fields right now because then we're going to have some more examples and we don't have to keep switching back and forth between the table and the Kanban board so often, right? So the table is created with a title field, which is the default field. It's the name of the card of the record. It should always be filled, right? If you don't want to use the title as a name, you could just edit it and assign it a random code, a sequential ID. But it's important that it's always filled, right? We're going to use it as a name field, so we're going to keep it there. And I'm just going to create some other fields here just as examples. So I'm going to create a description field, which is going to be a rich text field, which allows me to format it. I'm going to create a date field for a deadline. I'm going to create a multiple user field for the owner. Maybe this is a task, maybe this is an opportunity. So I'm going to create this one. I'm going to create a option, single option field as a priority field, right? So we're going to have three priorities. We're going to have low, which is going to be blue. We have medium, which is going to be yellow, kind of orange. And we're going to have high, which is going to be red. There you go. Let's see, title, description, deadline, owner, priority. One other thing that I want to have here is an image field. I'm going to use this as a cover for the card. This is going to become more clear later what we're going to do with it. And that's it. I'm not going to create a lot of fields here. One last thing that I have to do is that I have to create the stage field. I have to create the field that I'm going to use as columns for my Kanban board. And in Jestor, that is always a single option field, right? For example, we could use the priority field as a stage field. We're going to do this later, but I also want to create a stage field as in chronological stages, right? So I'm going to create a stage for new. I'm going to create a stage for in progress. And then I'm going to create a stage for done. And I'm also going to create a stage for archive. There you go. We're going to use later on this SLA metrics. I'm not going to activate it now, but basically what this does is measure the amount of time a record spends in each stage. I could toggle this on right now. I'm not going to. I'm going to come back to this later, so it's a little bit more obvious as soon as I start messing with SLA metrics. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to type some information in this record, like card number one, just so we have some information as we're building the Kanban board. So I'm the owner, and this is medium priority, and I have the stage. And okay, so now we have the examples, the example ready. Okay, so this is my table. This is the database that is going to hold all of the information for the Kanban board. We could create more fields. This could be more complex. We're going to come back to this later to do some other things, but as of now, it suffices. Now we're going to create the Kanban board itself. So one thing that people don't sometimes don't realize about Kanban boards in Jestor is that Kanban boards here are just components of app pages, right? So if I want to create a Kanban board, I first have to create an app page, and then I create a component of a Kanban board. And the reason we do
Or you
this
can create
is
a view for your table as well.
exactly. I'm going to come back to this later. You could do that as well. But in fact, what it does is it creates an app with a Kanban board, right? So the reason we do that is it's because it brings a lot of power to the Kanban board, because then in the same page you could have one Kanban board, you could have two Kanban boards, you could have a Kanban board with a chart on top of it, you can have indicators to the side, you can have a form to the side. So this brings a lot more flexibility to the Kanban board itself, right? So if we want to create a Kanban board, we're going to create a new blank app. and this is going to create this app page, and I'm going to call this example Kanban board. And like Bruno said, we're saying Kanban board, we're saying a lot of things, but you can think of this as in other software, it may call it Kanban board, it may call it just board, it may call it pipe, it may call it workflow. It kind of depends on the platform that you are. But it's basically cards separated by stage, right? So I'm just going to customize this. So it's kind of like light mode. Okay, so now I have this blank page, and you can see that I have a Kanban component and a Kanban board block here. So I'm just going to click on this, and it brings me some example data, right? It's a Kanban board. So now I can start um, playing with the settings of the Kanban board, right? So first of all, I have to select the table from which the Kanban board is pulling information, right? So the Kanban board is nothing more than a view to a database, a view to a table. So I have to select the table where it's pulling information from or sending information to, which is that table that I've just created called Kanban example table. And then I have to select the single option field, which is going to define the stages of the Kanban board. In this case, it's the stage field. I named this stage. It could be status. It could be any other kind of name that you use, right? There you go. So you can see that this already looks like a Kanban board. And I have that example card that I created here on the left, right? So the only thing that I have here is the title, right? Okay, so the next part of the settings is selecting the fields. And selecting fields here is not about when you open the card, right? When I click on the card. Selecting the fields here is about the fields that are going to appear on the cover of the card on this front facing part of the card, right? So I'm going to click here on add field, and I'm going to click on owner, and you're going to see that I happen to be the owner of this card, so I'm here on the cover. I could click here on priority. This is a medium priority card, and it appears here on the front of the card, right? And I can just rearrange them like this. So basically what I do here is select the information that I want to be on this front facing part of the card, right? So some people like to leave like a lot of fields on the cover of the card, like 10, 20 fields. Some people like me, I prefer to have just a few fields on the cover, just the most important ones that I want to be able to see at a glance. So I'm going to leave just these 3 fields for now. We're going to add the picture later, but for now, we're going to leave it as is, okay? The next part of the settings is filters. So filters are basically self-explanatory, right? Maybe I don't want to see all of the cards. Maybe I only want to see cards where the priority is high, for example. If I add this filter, there's no cards here because there's no card with priority equals to high, right? So I'm going to remove this filter, but you can always remove the filter, or you can always add filters to the Kanban board. And there's a specific scenario that I want to mention, which is when you have a field that is a user field. It could be a single user field, it could be a multiple user field. For example, it could be oops, here you go, filters. It could be the owner's field. You can use a filter of with the log user, right? So maybe you want the Kanban board to just show the cards where you're the owner, the person logged in is the owner. So when I access this Kanban board, I see all of my cards. But when Bruno sees the Kanban board, he see other kinds of cards, just the cards attached to him. So in this specific case, in this specific scenario, you have this log user operator here, right? So this is kind of like a special use case that I just wanted to mention, because you can do kind of like a fake permissioning in the using filters. Nothing beats using actual permissions, right? We have a very robust permissioning tool in Jestor. But if you just want to do a quick way of only showing people the things they're assigned, then you can do this as well. You can also sort the cards. So, for example, I can sort things by deadline. So things where the deadline is earlier are up top, and then things with deadline later on are going to be down below. So I'm going to create a card here just to show you guys the sorting. It's self-explanatory, but I think it's useful to have a second card here. Let me see. I have one, two. Hi, deadline tomorrow, and owner is John. There you go. I forgot to add the title, but no problem there. So let's edit the Kanban board. And then the deadline is deadline ascending, so you can see that the earlier card regarding deadline is up top, the other one is down below. If I change, this is going to reverse the sorting. So you can sort things by priority, you can sort things that are marked in a checkbox, you can sort things by, for example, ownership, alphabetically. It kind of depends on what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to remove the sorting. I don't need the sorting in this process right now. I created this card, so I'm going to go back to the filters and just add a owner is the logged user filter, and you're going to see that the only card that appears here is the one where I'm assigned as an owner, right? So you can kind of do these sorts of filters as well. Okay, the next setting is sorting, is changing the Kanban columns. And this is kind of, this is pretty cool because this is an option that not many tools actually have, right? So for example, you can see that I have the stages new, in progress, done, and archived. I have these 4 stages. But sometimes you don't want to see all the stages in a specific process. The stage may exist, but you don't want to see. And especially when you delete a stage, right? When not when you delete a stage, but when you retire a stage, maybe you're not going to use archived anymore, but you don't want to see archived cards anymore. So I can click here on change the Kanban columns, and I can remove one of the columns, right? Or more. And now on the Kanban board, that stage doesn't exist anymore. I cannot drag to it, and I can see the cards in this stage anymore. But the stage still exists on the table. The data still is there, and I can bring them back if I want to. There you go. So I can remove the archive, for example, and I can reorder stuff if I need to, like this. There you go. Cool. So next we have some style options, right? First of all, transparent background, right? I can toggle this on and off because I'm just going to do this. There you go. The Kanban board is, the component is smaller than the page itself. Right now it's transparent, so it means that the background part of the Kanban board is the same color as the background of the app page, but I could disable transparency and add a specific color just to the Kanban board, right? So if I click here, you can see that now the Kanban board is just this blue part on the middle of the app. But if I toggle this on, it's now transparent. So this is what this means. Background blur, I'm not able to toggle this on. This is only possible when you have a background image on the app. I don't have one right now. If I had a background image, I can do this later. Then I would be able to toggle this on, and then you would have this blurred kind of frosty effect. So the Kanban board would be like a little bit transparent, but the background would be blurred, so you can kind of see the image. I can get back to that later, but I think most people know what I'm talking about. The next option is colors, the card color specific. So right now they're black, but maybe I want them to be white or red or any other color, right? So I'm going to leave them white, but you can change the default color of the card. I'm saying default color because you can have conditional colors for the cards as well, right? And we're going to get back to that, but this option changes the default color. There you go. You have now the add card button toggle, which is this icon here, right? So this icon allows me to add a card specifically to a certain stage. Sometimes you don't want to be able to let people do that. You want to have just one button up top of the app where cards always go to the new stage. So you can disable this, and you can see that the add icon is going to vanish, right? I cannot add to that stage directly anymore. Just toggle this on. There you go. But if I toggle this off, it's going to be removed. Okay. We have one option here that is toggle on by default, which is hiding the empty fields. And what does this mean, right? I have here priority, deadline, and owners. They're appearing on the card, but sometimes one of these fields may not, in fact, be filled out, right? So I'm going to remove the deadline of this field. And you're going to see that now nothing appears here, right? But sometimes the absence of information is useful information in some processes, right? So some people like to toggle this off, and now you are going to be able to see that one of the fields are not filled out, they are empty, there are using space here. So this is also a useful setting for when you want all of the cards to have roughly the same size, right? Because if you're hiding the empty fields, now this card is a little bit smaller than the other one, and if I don't hide it, it's roughly the same size. Okay, so and sometimes the absence of information is something useful as well, so you may want to show that one of the fields is empty. And you can do this combined with the next setting, which is show field icon and label. So right now you can see that in the cover, on the cover of the card, I cannot see the name of the fields. I know that this is priority, I know that this is owners, I know that this is deadline because I know the process, but sometimes the person is not very familiarized with the process itself. So you want to show the fields. Or maybe you have more than one date field, you have more than one number field, you have more than one single option field. So you can toggle this on, and you're going to be able to see the field itself, right? So this is priority, this is owner, and this is deadline. So by default, we remove this and hide the empty fields. This works pretty well if you don't have a lot of fields on the cover of the card. And if you have a lot of fields and you have repeating types of data, a lot of date fields, a lot of number fields, and so on, then maybe you want to toggle this on so you can always see what's going on here. The next option is called title highlight, and what it does is a little bit more hidden from the user in a first glance, right? So basically, I can toggle this on and off. It's by default it's on, but what it allows me to do is to add this color to the card, right? So card number one, I can click on these three dots here, and then I can select a color, for example, this green color. So this gives me a manual visual indication of something. What that something is, it's up to you. So maybe you want to color the title of the cards green when they're important or something like that. So you have these visual information here as well, okay? And the next option is kind of similar, but it's not regarding cards, it's regarding the stages themselves, right? So here you can see that stage border color is toggle on. So I can go to a certain stage, for example, done. I can click here on the three dots and I can color all of the stage a certain color, okay? For example, this one, this lighter green. And when a card moves here, it is enveloped by the color. So I can kind of like paint, I can color the whole of the stage. And this is just a nice little visual indicator. So for example, you always like just look at the process and you see that the cards in this green stage are done, are finished, and so on. So this is more about having visual cues than having automations and so on. So you can do stuff like this, right? There you go. So I'm going to edit the Kanban board. So we're almost done with the settings part of the Kanban board, right? So let's see. The next part is the card size. So by default, it's medium, right? So it's basically the width of the Kanban card. So if I select small, you'll see that the card is going to be a little bit smaller. If I go to large, it's going to take up more space. I particularly like the small card size because, as you can see, it allows you to see more stages on the same space. So if you have more stages, having smaller cards is a nice way of having more information on your screen. But sometimes, if you have a lot of fields, if you have text fields appearing on the cover of the card, you may want to have a large card. So you have these options as well. I kind of always go with small unless I need more space. I think it's a little bit better because I can see more stages, but it's up to each one. This is kind of like a matter of taste in any case. So these are the style options. Okay. So now we go to conditional cards, and this is what I meant when I say that you can have conditional colors. So the default color of the card I set up as white, so you can see that the card is white here, but I can always just add a condition, and what I can do is um, make it slightly green, for example, like this, and then I can select a condition for the card to be green. For example, I can do green if the owner is myself, the logged user, right? So when a person enters and see this Kanban board, they're going to see all of their cards kind of highlighted. So you can see here that my card is green, the card belonging to this other user is not. And you can do cool stuff like if something is past the deadline, it's slightly red, right? So you can just look at a card that is past the due date, past the deadline, and it's going to be painted a different color. So kind of like deadline is before today, for example. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go with a previous deadline, and there you go. You can now see that because this deadline is in the past, this card is red. But what if I move it to done? Then you can edit the conditional color, for example, and say that it should paint cards red when the deadline is before today, and you have operators here. The stage is not done. So there you go. I think I selected something wrong here. Let me see. There you go. So when I go to new, the deadline is before today. It's red. If I go to done, it's still in the past, but now it's done. It's going to paint it white in a minute, right? So that's kind of what it does. There you go. So let's edit it. I'm going to remove this conditional color here. There you go. Remove it. There you go. Next one, we have the stage indicators, which are like kind of attached to the SLA metrics. So I'm going to skip that. We're going to go back to this one in a minute. I just want to finish the other parts of the settings, right? So the next part is regarding powers. So maybe you want this Kanban board to be read-only, so people cannot create stuff, they cannot change the stage, they cannot change the information inside. So you can activate read-only. This toggle is going to do that. You can click on allow data download. So if I hover the mouse here, the cursor, let's go with save. If I hover the cursor here, you're going to see that nothing appears here. But now if I edit this Kanban board and toggle this on, this icon appears here, and this is going to allow me to download the data from the Kanban board. And one just hint here is that it's going to download the information on the cover of the card, right? It's not going to pull all of the information from the processes. We have reports, we have other types of data exports that are for those use cases. But if you want the information here on the cover of the cards, you can toggle this on. When I click this, I'm going to download a report, a spreadsheet with all of the cards that are appearing on screen and all of the information from the cover of the cards, right? The next setting is disabling dragging and dropping. So right now I can just click drag and drop. But if I want to, I can disable this. And I'm not able to click, hold, drag, and drop anymore, right? I cannot do it because I disabled it. Let's go to the next setting. We're nearly done here. And we have the enable Kanban editing. So you can see here that if you activate this, users can create new stages and edit stage names. And this is the last setting here that before I delve into more specifics. And this is mainly tied to this, right? I can edit the name of the stage here. I can create new stages directly from the Kanban board. So if I disable that, I'm not going to be able to do that anymore, right? So that's what that does. Okay. Cool. So before we move on to SLA metrics and to forms, I just wanted to show you guys one last thing is that I'm going to add the cover image here to the cover of the card. I don't have any cards with cover images here, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a let me go and get an image so I can put this here. There you go. Okay. So now let's go back. There you go. I'm going to edit just the form here so I can go. I'm going to put the cover, the image here on this cover field, which is a image field. There you go. So now it's appearing here. I can click on this. This is going to expand the image. So this is kind of all expected, right? But if I edit the Kanban board, and this works only with image fields, right? It doesn't work for files, attachment fields. It's only with the image field. But this is a kind of a nice tip here, is that if I get a cover image, a image field here, and place it all the way up to the top, it's going to change the way it shows the image, right? So you can see that the image now, it's kind of like this cover, actual cover of the card. And one more thing, if all we have in the cover, in the front facing part of the card is the image field, I'm going to remove these ones. It's going to have this nice effect where the card, all of the card is the image, right? So for content planning, campaigns, and some other kinds of processes, this might be a cool way of seeing information, because now I only have to look at this card and know which article I'm talking about, which social media post I'm talking about. So this is a nice way of setting up this information, right? So, but right now I'm just going to go with this. There you go. Okay. So I'm going to talk about SLAs first because this is uh, the easier one to understand and to grasp and to explain to you guys. So remember when I talked about when I let's go to the where it is. There you go. The stage view. There's this toggle of SLA. Basically, what this does is measure the amount of time a card spent on a certain stage, right? I could activate it here, but I'm going to go back to the app just to show you guys. So I'm going to click here, and I have this SLA panel here. And you can see here that it's not monitoring anything. It's monitoring just the time since the creation of the card and the time since the card was last updated. But I can actually select a single option field here to start measuring SLA. So I'm going to click here on the stage field. And now this is going to start measuring the amount of time this card spent in a certain stage, right? So if I move it to, I disabled drag and dropping, no problem. I'm just going to move from within the card. And you can see that I went to the in progress stage and this is registering here, right? So if I click here in progress, it's the current stage. And if I look at here, it's showing me that the sequential time, right? So if I move the stage again, let's go to new. There you go. And you can see that now that I've spent some time in certain stages, I have more useful information, right? So let's go one last time to done. There you go. And now you can see all of the information here. So the SLA part, it basically measures the aggregated time and the sequential time. The aggregated time is how much time a card spent in a certain stage, regardless of if it went back and forth. It's going to sum all of the time is spent on the new stage, for example, and show you. So you can see here that it spent 18 seconds in the new stage and 23 seconds in the in progress stage, for example. The sequential one is a little bit different. Let's go back to new, just to show you guys. Because it's going to show the order of events, right? So it spent 23 seconds in progress, it spent 18 seconds in new, then it went to done, it spent 39 seconds, then it went back to new. So aggregated is going to be the combination, the sum of everything. Sequential is going to be the order of events, right? And you can hover your cursor over each bar and see when it entered that stage and when it left that stage, right? And it's also going to have this very useful bar up here, which is basically the timeshare between stages. And one cool thing about this is that I'm seeing the SLA by stage because I activated it to the stage field, but I can activate it to more fields. I could activate it for the priority field, for example. It doesn't make sense to do this because I don't expect this card to be moving between priorities much, but you could activate it to the priority field and it would appear here as well right next to the stage SLA, right? So this is not a Kanban board feature exactly. I'm only explaining this because now we can go to the stage field, to the Kanban board settings, and we can have this stage SLA activated. And basically what this does is that I have this here up top, right? So I have this indicator here just below the name of the stage, showing me that a card spends in average 11 seconds in the stage, and we could have more information for the other stages as well. We could also hover our cursor on top of this and see the average, the minimum, and the maximum amount of time cards usually spent in this stage, right? So this is a nice indicator because if you have metrics, if you have KPIs, if you have OKRs that are attached to the SLA of these stages, You can just look here and see if you're within your goal, if you're overshooting it, and so on. Okay, cool. So the one of the final parts that I want to talk about here is the forms, right? So in Jestor, when we talk about forms, we can be talking about a lot of things, right? It could be, for example, a public form. So if you think about Typeform, Google Forms, and so on, where you have a public link where people can submit information and so on, we also have that. We have public forms, but forms in Jestor are actually a more general purpose tool. And this means that when I click on the card to open and see the information here, this left part is also a form, right? We call this a form as well, right? And when you're creating a card, that's also a form. It may not be a public form. It may just be a panel here on the right side part of your screen when you click here on the plus icon, but we call that forms as well. So you can customize the way that you're going to input and see information, right? And this is reflected here on the last part of the Kanban settings, right? So you can see, let me just add card button. There you go. You can see here that I have creation forms and update forms for the Kanban board. Creation forms are when I'm adding a card to the Kanban board, and update forms are when I click on a Kanban board card and I see the information from the Kanban board, right? And we have three options here. We have a custom block form, we have imports from a different app page, and we have the default table form. What does this mean? This means that I have the option of customizing the form for this specific Kanban board, right? So just in this Kanban board, but when I see the data from other places, it's going to look differently. I can use the same form from the table. So you can see here that in the table, I can customize the forms as well. I'm going to go into more detail here, but I can customize the form from the table. So when I click here on new row or when I open a card, I can use the same forms that are from the table itself. So this is very useful because then you only have to set up the form once, and then you're just going to use the same form for all the processes. But also I can import a form from a different app. So for example, if I go here to this template that we're building in other days, if I go here to recruiting, I have this public form. I could use this as a creation form in the Kanban board, for example. So when I click on the add card, I get this form specifically. In fact, that's what we're doing in this recruiting process, right? If I click here on new application, it's pulling that form that is here, right? So it's the same form. So I can pull forms from different places. So we have those three options, right? So I'm going to customize it and do it from the block form itself. But I'm only going to do this because I'm showing everything with the Kanban board. I usually recommend people to use default table form and customize the forms from the table themselves, because then you only have to customize them once. So if you create a different Kanban board, you don't need to keep customizing different forms. But I'm going to go with block form here just to show you guys. So if I click here on block form, this means I'm going to create a custom form for this template, right? For this Kanban board. And before I start editing it, I can select the window style and the success behavior. What this means is, for example, the window style for creating a card can be a right side panel. So if I save this, and now if I click here, there you go. It's here on the side instead of opening up on the center. It could also be full screen, right? So if I come here, I can go to full screen. So if I click here, now it's a full screen form. So it's kind of like the behavior, the appearance of the form, how you want it, right? So I'm going to use for the creation right side window, right? And success behavior is basically what you want to do when the person submits the form, when they create the card. By default, it's just closing the form, and that's what I recommend to most people anyway. So let's edit the form itself. So this is a creation form, of course. So I can add a title. So for example, new card, and description, use this form to create a new card. I'm not going to go into much detail here because we have some form live streams as well. So I'm not going to spend too much time here on the forms, showing covering logos and so on. I'm just going to do some light editing here, so you guys can see that I can customize the card for the Kanban board a lot. So let's go with predefined value, and there you go. So I'm going to customize some colors here. Title, I'm going to use this one, and button color, this one as well. Okay, so I'm customizing the form. Like I said, we have some live streams for the forms themselves. But just to show you guys that when I save this, now if I click here on add card, it's a custom form, right? Just like I just set up. So I have this title, I have the fields here, I have some fields right next to each other. The stage has a different appearance. So we can compare this to the update form, right? It's a little bit different, it's a little bit more optimized, and I can customize how things are going to appear, right? And I can do the same thing for the update form. I can customize it. I can select the tools that I want to be able to access through the side panels, right? So I want chat, I want tasks, I want SLA, I don't want emails, connected records, record history. I can remove some, for example. And I want to see this as a double window or as a wider form, for example. So if I save this, you're going to see here that it looks like this now, for example. And I can customize the colors. I can do some other stuff as well, right? So let's go. Let's edit the block. I'm just going to customize the colors first. There's just one last thing that I want to show you guys regarding update forms and creation forms as well. But I'm just going to add some more information here. Cover here. So let's see the deadline, description, and the stage. There you go. And that's it. So let's save. So you can see that I can customize this, and this is how it looks like. So you can have like this ultra customized process, right? Because you're customizing the way that you're inputting information and that you're seeing and interacting with the information. But one other thing that I want to show you guys is that, okay, so I've customized this, but I could also have conditionals here. And what are conditionals? We can hide or show fields depending on what the person is doing in the card. We can make some fields read only, we can make some fields required, and we're going to do this. We're going to customize the form, and we're going to add form conditionals, right? So for example, the first condition that I want to do is hide owner. So I'm going to select the owner, and I'm going to hide this field when the stage is in progress, for example. So this is one condition. I'm going to add a new condition as well, in which the title is going to be read only, for example, when the stage is done. And I'm also going to add a new condition in which, let's see, the stage, not the stage, let's see, the deadline is going to be required. The deadline is going to be required, sorry, when the priority is high. There you go. So I've created three conditions here: hide the owner when it's in progress, make the title read only when it's done, and require a deadline when the priority is high, right? So let's save and let's see how it works. So the card, I can still change this. There's still a deadline, and the owner is still appearing. If we move this to progress, the owner vanished, right? The stage does not appear anymore. If I go back to new, it appears. We can go to done, and now the card title is not editable anymore. It's read only, right? If I go back to in progress, now I can edit this. And if I go to new, if I change the priority from medium to high, the deadline is required. You can see the red asterisk here. So if I change back to low, there's no deadline required. So you can make conditionals to guide the process, right? So depending on stage, depending on certain conditions, you can make fields appear, disappear, be required, be read only, and not just fields, right? You can make the same thing with blocks and even with the submit button, right? We can make this button disappear if we want to. But that's kind of the, oh, my cursor is behaving weirdly. Okay, so this is kind of the last part that I wanted to get to. And now the last thing that I'm going to go into are the stages. So I've set up this Kanban board. We're in an app page, right? So if we wanted to, we could add charts, we could add filters, we could do a lot of other stuff. So if I go back, for example, to this part, you can see here on the purchases part, that I have some fields that I can add here, for example, to see comments, to see time in a stage, to add connected information here, for example. We can have filters, search bars, and so on. We can have a button on top. But this is more regarding app building than Kanban boards themselves. But I'm just showing you guys this screen so you can see that there's a lot of stuff you can do with the Kanban board besides what we've shown you. But we're nearly 1 hour into the live stream, so we're going to cut this a little bit short. But the last thing that I wanted to show guys is if I go back to the table, I can click here on views. Oops. And I can see views from the table. I have the default table view. I have the SLAs that I activated, but I can also add that Kanban board that I just created to as a view to this table, right? So I can click there. And now I have this Kanban board here. So I have the table. And if I click here on the Kanban board view, it's that Kanban board that I created, right? So it's basically pulling that app back here so I can see the information. And like we said before, we've just built one Kanban board for this process, but we could have more Kanban boards. And I'm going to do one last, a last one really quickly just to show you guys. I'm going to add a view. And now I'm going to create a new view from scratch, a new Kanban view. And instead of seeing by stage, what I'm going to do here is see by priority. There you go. So this one is seen by priority. You can see that it's the exact same information, right? It's the card that I created with the information that I created, the image that I created. But now instead of seeing stages, I'm seeing priorities, right? So low, medium, and high. And if I go back here, I can see it by stage, and if I go here, I can see it by as a table. So you can see that it's a very flexible way of building processes. This is more of a quick tour. I know that we're nearly an hour into the live stream, but this is more like a quick way of showing you most of what you can do with the Kanban boards, at least most of the basics. But the idea here is that this is a very flexible way of building processes, and this is where you have an edge over other software that are usually just like dedicated to Kanban boards. First of all, a lot of them don't have the same features we have, a lot of advanced features that we have. So a lot of them are just simple Kanban boards. They don't have conditional colors, they don't have conditional fields, they don't have as many automations because we can automate the Kanban board. And so also we have a lot of advanced features and advanced style settings, as you can see. But Jestor is not just a Kanban board software. You could have Gantt charts, you can have table views, you can have charts, indicators, you can have calendars. You can mix them all together in the same page. So in that sense, you can have this ultra flexible app that is tailor made for your process, for the way that you want to work with that information, right? But this is a quick tour. Bruno, is there any other thing that you want to show them?
No, I think the idea is to just show the basics. There are lots of different things that we can do here and combine with other blocks, but the idea here is to talk mainly about the Kanban view. And we will have another live session tomorrow. So if you want to know what we're going to talk about, subscribe. And if you have any other questions, just leave in the comments and we can help you as well. See you guys.
Goodbye.